Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends, Wooden Railway Adventures. Episode 64, Tankers and Turmoil. On the island of Surtur, there is a kind little diesel who is also a very hard worker. This engine's name is Rusty. He is often known as Rusty the Little Diesel to all the other engines, or as the hard worker. Everyone can count on Rusty, even Sir Topham Hatt. He often puts Rusty in charge of the island of Surtur's most precious trains, including shunting the express coaches once in a while. Whether Rusty is shunting a train or pulling a train, it is never late. Rusty is always on time. Rusty used to pull coaches, but unfortunately he had a bad accident a couple of months ago. One of the pieces of the track broke when he was going over a bridge, and he fell down onto the ground below. He was badly injured. Ever since he got back from the works, his life has never been the same. Sir Topham has put him in charge of the yard, and Rusty dislikes it very much. He wants to go out and pull coaches. One day he shunted the trains for Sir Handel and Peter Sam. Sir Handel puffed off really quickly. He didn't want to be late. Peter Sam, however, decided to stay back and wait for Rusty to come up. Rusty looked very sad. "What's the matter?" asked Peter Sam. "Oh dear," said Rusty. "I want to go out and pull coaches again. I'm tired of being stuck here in the yard." "Oh, I see your point," said Peter Sam. "You know, I also had a bad accident a couple of years ago. Sir Topham Hatt didn't let me go out on the main line for a long time. I don't think he trusted me." "That's terrible," said Rusty. "I know," said Peter Sam, "but your case is different. You deserve to go out and pull coaches. I'll talk to Sir Topham Hatt today if I see him." And Peter Sam puffed away. Rusty was very tired after all that shunting, and he decided to go sit in one of the sidings. His driver went to go get a cup of coffee, and so Rusty was alone. He was about to fall asleep, but not for long. Just then, Duncan puffed up. "Oh," said Rusty, "what do you want?" "I have a train to pull today," said Duncan. "Can I rely on you to shunt it?" Rusty always knew that goods trains were never to be shunted by the shunter in the yard. They were always shunted by the engine who pulled them. "No way," said Rusty. "I'm not doing that. You can do it yourself." "Please," said Duncan. "Please." "No," said Rusty. "I told you." "Oh, fine," said Duncan. "I'll come back in a few minutes, and I expect to see my goods train ready." And Duncan raced off before Rusty could reply. "I'm not shunting his goods train, no matter what he says," said Rusty. Rusty waited a couple more minutes, and soon Duncan returned. "Is my goods train ready?" said Duncan. "No," said Rusty. "I told you, I'm not shunting it." "Look," said Duncan, "Sir Topham Hatt." Rusty knew if Sir Topham Hatt saw him working very hard, he would maybe let him pull coaches again. "Oh dear," he said. He ran to go find Duncan's goods train, and when he found it, he brought it down by the turntable. Here's your train, Duncan," he said, as he set it on the turntable. Duncan laughed and coupled to it. "Where's Sir Topham Hatt? I want to see him." Duncan laughed as he puffed away. "Ha," he said, "there was no Sir Topham Hatt. Thank you for getting my train, though," he said, and Duncan puffed away. Rusty went red in the face. "Oh," he said, I'll get him for sure." Duncan's train was full of many tankers, and they were all full of their important goods. The train was very heavy, and Duncan was having trouble with it. "Oh dear," he said, I may have trouble pulling this train. That won't be good." But soon Duncan had been very silly, and he ran out of coal. "Oh dear," said Duncan, "this is terrible." He was by the docks, and just right there were Ivo, Hugh, and Rheneas. "Can you two come over here?" he said. "I've run out of coal. Can you just give me a push?" Ivo, Hugh, and Rheneas laughed. "No way," they said. We're on our own schedule. Goodbye." And they both puffed away. "Oh dear," said Duncan, "I've been a very silly engine after all. The only engine that's left in the yard is Rusty. He'll have to come help me." When Rusty soon heard about Duncan, he laughed. "Oh," he said, "I'm not going to go help him. He was quite rude to me." But just then his driver brought up a good point. "Hey, Rusty," he said, "if we go and help Duncan, we could pay him back for the stuff he said about you." "You're right," said Rusty. "Let's go help him after all." And Rusty got on the turntable and set off. "We're going to get revenge on Duncan. We're going to get revenge on Duncan," he said. He soon came to where Duncan was. "Having trouble, Duncan?" he said. "Be quiet," said Duncan. "Just give me a push." "Oh, fine," said Rusty, but he snickered quietly to himself. Rusty had to admit that this train was very heavy indeed. He decided he would give Duncan an extra bump. When Rusty came around the bend, he pushed Duncan's train very hard. "Oh!" said Duncan. Duncan couldn't stop, however. "Help! Help!" he said. He rounded the bend at the docks. "Someone, come help me, please!" He couldn't stop as the force of the tankers were propelling him down the line. He met it with Sir Topham Hatt. Sir Topham Hatt jumped and both strode quickly. "What in the world?" said Sir Topham Hatt. Duncan rounded the bend again, and the tankers followed him. "Help!" he called. Soon he caught up with Rheneas and Ivo Hugh. Rheneas had gone into his own siding, but Ivo Hugh was resting on the main line. They were about ready to set off again, but they didn't have time. "Watch out!" called Duncan. He was diverted off Rheneas' track and right into Ivo Hugh. Duncan hit the cargo car so hard it exploded, and Ivo Hugh was knocked off the track. "Cinders and ashes," he said. Worst of all, Duncan was knocked off the track too, and his goods train was a mess behind him. Goods were everywhere. Rusty soon followed him. "Oh dear," said Rusty. "I believe we've gone a little too far with our pranks," he told his driver. Not to worry, he said. "Look who's arrived." And Sir Topham Hatt had arrived. "Well," he said, "this is quite very interesting. Duncan, what has happened?" "Oh, Rusty gave me a bump." "Is that true, Rusty?" "Oh, I'm sorry, sir," said Rusty, "but it is. But he made me shunt his goods train." Sir Topham Hatt was cross. "Duncan," he said, you're supposed to shunt your own goods train." "I know, sir, but I was too lazy." "Well, you'll have time to think about lazy when you're shunting in the yard." Rusty laughed. "Am I still going to be shunting in the yard, sir?" "No, indeed," said Sir Topham Hatt. "Peter Sam told me all about your story this morning," he said, "and I feel very sorry for you. I haven't realized that I've been treating you very bad. From now on, you will help on Mighty Mac's branch line." "Oh, thank you, sir," said Rusty, and he puffed away, very pleased with himself.